What up, perps? Kid Copious. Back in effect, Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here, man. We're trying to rep America, the center, and common sense. And this one goes out to MLK, Black History Month. Watch some documentaries on Mr. King. Watch some TV shows like The Jeffersons. There you go. Educate yourself. So, anyhow, sadly, right now we're dealing with the aftermath of what happened in Memphis, where 5 black officers killed a black citizen. Pretty brutal. Doesn't even seem like dude put up much of a fight. Doesn't even seem like dude was really up to any bad. I don't even think he was a criminal. A traffic violator, whatever. But, the media is rushing around trying to frame it as white supremacy. So I thought maybe I would frame some stuff on white supremacy. This is for the Democrats, the lefts, the progressives, the liberal media, the mainstream media. You want to know what white supremacy is? White supremacy is Latinx, much like African American, where white people decide to stick tags on things to try to make them better, to make themselves feel better. Look, I've labeled it Latinx. I'm better now. Green energy. It's white supremacy. It is. If anything that benefits the upper classes is going to be labeled as white supremacy, well, that's a great one. I mean, the government's pouring tons of money into EVs, but when it's all said and done, how is this going to work? The system favors homeowners and the upper middle class and above. If somebody has to drive an hour and a half every day to get to work, how are they going to charge their car when they return to their apartment? They're not. They're going to be spending 45 minutes to an hour, even more depending on availability, to charge their electric vehicles. They want to price you out of your house and into the buses. That's what they want. They don't care. They only care about you for votes. Soft on crime, gun control, defund the police, the immigration policy does not help the poor, does not help minorities. Removing parents from the schools shut down during COVID. The taxes, the regulations, bigger government. Welfare schemes, blurring the lines of decency across the board. How does that help anybody, let alone poor and minority people? It doesn't. They're rich white people up here who are above all of the problems that they create. Meanwhile, they come to the people of color. They come for the Hispanics. They come and say, we're here to save you. And then every policy, every way of thinking, every single thing that they do goes against their words. They are trying to price us out of California. If you don't clean toilets and you're not part of their ultra-rich club, you don't belong here. And this is the plan that they want to take across America. But where are we going to go? They're going to do just enough to placate people and get the votes. But at the end of the day, much of what they stand for is white supremacy. So therefore, the Democratic Party is white supremacy. And now for some mental irregularities. So, California business climate is so bad, even Jerry Garcia's marijuana company is leaving. We have marijuana companies that are leaving and stores that are going to be closing because when we legalized weed here, we basically decriminalized everything on the illegal market. The illegal market is so strong here that it's starting to affect Britain. They're starting to look for California weed in Britain because our laws and our lawmakers are morons. And they can't ever be tough. New York City hotel worker calls out city as migrants destroy rooms, disrespect employees, and there's no accountability. And they're complaining about the food they're getting. Can you imagine? Because a lot of the people who are coming here are not some guy from some state in Mexico trying to come here to pick strawberries and lettuce to send money back home. These are like middle class people. that are coming now, that are just streaming across the border. They're just jumping the queue. They're carrying out, really. $5 million reparations for black residents, not enough, San Francisco official says. Seriously, is this dude fucking brain damaged? $5 million per person. What's his name here? Shaman Walton? What the? He says that it's much less than a lot of projections that people say black people should receive for reparations here in the United States. Dude, none of y'all were slaves. None of us were slave owners. You could make the case, people profited. Well, okay, maybe that's something that you could actually take up if that's where your lineage actually takes you. But 5 million isn't enough, eh? Okay. I like what Larry Elder, by the way, remember Larry Elder? He ran for governor in California. He was the black guy that people labeled the face of white supremacy. Yeah, we know who the white supremacists are in this country. The extraction of money from people who were never slave owners to people who never were slaves. That's what it was. That's what they're proposing. I understand things were tough. Things were tough for a lot of ethnic groups. If you weren't like white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you were pretty much fucked in this country at one point. But we can't go around paying everybody for everything that was done in history. We need to make tomorrow better. But see, the politicians have no plan to make tomorrow better. So they've got to deal with the past. Massive green energy company reports nearly $1 billion in losses, calls for further governmental action. It's a German-based company, the global leader in offshore power. Yeah, those things have problems. It's not cheap to have windmills in the middle of the ocean, okay? Things that don't operate when the winds are too high or when the weather's too cold. Yeah, they work great in small doses, but what, we're going to give them more money? Again, white supremacy. Because how are poor people going to do that? Afford that? Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to zoom out. There we go. Now we can clickety-click. The media agree. Black cops beating black victim is white supremacy. Systemic racism and calling it irrelevant whether the police officers are black. That is how desperate they are to push their narrative. That they will just simply say things that are completely false like that. Just make shit up. Why not? If the truth don't work, make shit up. Here's another great one. The university's ban on cheating and plagiarism unfairly targets minority students, Ivy Leaguer claims. This is what I was talking about. I'm willing to bet that this is more than likely a white person saying that the honor code unfairly impacts racial minorities. Yeah, citing parallels to the U.S. criminal justice system. Right. Okay, so go ahead and just cheat and plagiarize because it is most often damaging for first-generation low-income FLI students who also often belong to racial minorities. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, yeah. Okay, so essentially you're saying that people of color need to cheat? That's great. This is a sad story. Officer Carrasco was gunned down and set off a firestorm between the DA in Fresno and my favorite person, Gavin Newsom, Mr. Rich Bitch. God, I want to fight that guy. The problem with this case is that the shooter was released early from jail, and he was in there on weapons charges. So you have to ask yourself, if you're not going to enforce gun laws, but you're going to enact gun laws, who are the gun laws designed, aka targeted at? The Democrats, these rich elites, I would say some of them are Republicans too, they want total control. They don't want to have to answer to us anymore. And the only reason they have to answer to us is the remote possibility that we overthrow them. Now, Biden again, I always point this out. Biden says, we got F-15s. That's great. We will fight you with a musket. There are enough Americans left in America that are getting sick of this shit. If you're going to enact gun laws, enforce them. Don't allow felons who use firearms or carry firearms to skate. It's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, Chinese spy balloon. This is a great one. You know what they're doing. They're showing us that even with primitive technology, they can get to our airspace. They're showing their people, you don't have to fear the Americans. They're cowards. I don't know what we do about it. It's up pretty high. There may be concerns about, innocent bystanders, collateral damage. I get that. If you can shoot it down, shoot it down. It is, absolutely ridiculous that it is allowed to get to the middle of the United States. And of course, there's Mark Milley. We don't think we should take action, because take kinetic action due to the risk to the safety and security of people on the ground from a possible debris field. You could shoot it down. You can. You could take it out. And you could take it out in a way that it's just going to land in the middle of nowhere. Or hit it hard enough that there's not a lot of debris. Trump leads call for Pentagon to shoot down the Chinese air balloon over Montana. I saw one. I'll see if I can dig it out. But they said it's not a matter of would Trump shoot down the balloon. It's a matter of would China even have sent the balloon. The Chinese revere the art of war. The art of war is a lot about deception. One of the things that I hate about the days we live in right now is we can't talk about the evil of China and separate the Chinese people. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm talking about the leadership. I'm talking about the military. I'm talking about the ruling class. But this is what they revere. Deception. And their deception is trying to call it a weather balloon. But in reality, it sends a message. We can reach you, and it shows their people that we're cowards. We won't do anything. So earlier I was talking about Latinx being white supremacy. And there's some new polls that came out. And one of these polls showed that 40% of Latino voters are offended. They consider it a slur, folks. Yeah. And not only do they consider it a slur, only a few of them even use it. And I don't even know if that little 2% down here that actually use Latinx, what's their makeup? And how many of them just simply said it? Because that's a very low number. And just to tell you, that 8% right there, that's probably American. That's what they would prefer. American or something specific. But they know that's come on. White people can't ask for specifics. You can't. It's hard. You can't ask for specifics. But Hispanic, that's their preferred term. Hey, and you want to know something? Hispanic are gender neutral. So they don't violate the precious left's doctrine on gender neutral options. It's performative. And it's not working, but because the people who originated are white elite people, they're just going to keep pushing it. And one of the ways they keep pushing it is through the media. This is them trying to shoehorn the Memphis incident, the foot of racism into it. It doesn't fit. And worst of all, part of the problem that we're seeing in places like Memphis is when you make police officers the vile demons that the media spins them to be. Who wants to be a police officer? You have to start lowering standards. You can't be as choosy because you don't have enough people. There's a mass exodus in New York right now. How are they going to fill those roles? At the end of the day, following the leftist handbook, they want to abolish our local police. They want federal and state police. They want what China has, state police. You want to see more of them? More of their hypocrisy? Biden is blocking the world's largest undeveloped ore deposit as it pushes copper heavy EVs and wind turbines. Cutting it off at the knees. Look at that. 1.4 billion tons of copper, gold, cannot even pronounce that word, silver, and rhodium. I don't even know what rhodium is. But now, we're going to pass the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which restricts electric vehicle products from certain parts of China, and then we're going to ban American mining of it. Don't buy into that deal that they signed in the Congo. The Chinese already own everything over there. Look at that. They want electric vehicles to make up 50% of all vehicles sold by 2030. But they've blocked projects in Michigan and now Alaska to mine the minerals that we need. So not only do we have to drive inferior vehicles, we have to give the money to China instead of the current companies that we're giving to, which are Japan, Korea, the United States. No, it's all going to go to China. I'm sorry, but that proves they're in bed with China. Look at that. A standard vehicle, 18 to 50 pounds of copper. EV, 85 to 183 pounds of copper. With copper demands expected to increase by 1,700 kilotons by 2027, he's cutting the knees off of copper industry in the United States. This is the craziness that we are dealing with here. This is where one man needs to stand up and say, no. We're either doing this or we're doing that, but we can't do both. Because that's what we can't. Oh, China already controls 76% of the global EV battery production. Is that what you want? You want your future dominated by China? Because that's what China wants. So, again, this happened. It's happened in Ohio. And the reality is, the people who are perpetrating things like this, the naked man who's walking through a women's facility, exposing himself in front of children, he does not represent the group that people think he represents. Whoops, went too far on that one. They doesn't. These are pawns, and the problem with it is that they are damaging the cause more than anybody wants to admit. But everybody knows. Everybody knows. There's a simple truth in play here. Trans rights are complicated because they're the first time that one group's civil rights collides with another group's civil rights in such a dramatic way. We've never had this before, where we're having to chip away women's rights to provide trans rights. Because nobody wants to sit down and have an honest, frank, common sense discussion and set up some guidelines. And nobody wants to come forward and really admit the truth. Most people in the trans community don't wander around through locker rooms with their junk hanging out. Most of them don't want to compete in college sports and possibly take away scholarships. Most don't want to indoctrinate kids. Most don't want to commit crimes like rape. In truth, most just want the same respect and opportunities that we all have to be happy and thrive like humans deserve. When we defend the extremes, we harm the majorities. We see that right there. The Xena City Council said that the city would prosecute the YMCA with aiding and abetting if a case against this person is successful. The YMCA, when this man was reported or this trans female was reported, they said, hey, Glines is actually a woman and the complainant shouldn't be disturbed. That's placating the extremes. And it hurts the majority. We have to pull together doctors, whatever, scientists, politicians, advocates. We have to pull these people together and come up with a common sense solution, a set of ground rules that makes sense, that's actually fair, that does not take away one person's rights and gives it to another person, because that's not the goal. But then again, this has been monetized and it is now relied on for votes. So don't expect to see much change. Just continue to see the blurring of lines. Here's some more blurry shit. Biden unveils Junk Food Prevention Act. Right. And I agree. You know, some of this stuff is pretty expensive. Some of it is very frivolous. But some of the things they talk about aren't frivolous. Service fees to buy concert tickets. I just got tickets to Royal and the Serpent. I'm playing with Fall Out Boy. $80-something a ticket with about $20 in fees. Well, that means the tickets were $100. You have to pay the stadium. You have to pay the artist. You have to pay the ticket broker. You have to pay a lot of people. That's the way it works. Exorbitant? Let's go after exorbitant. But looking at this, you know, $200 to terminate your cable plan. Well, okay. If they're giving you a price based on, like, let's say a lease, yeah, there's a termination fee. That's just reality. Bag fees on planes, sure, that sucks. But if you take away bag fees, they'll just raise the rates on everybody. That's what they'll do. $50 to sit next to your child on a plane? All right, it seems awfully high, but I guess it would be worth it. This is meaningless shit. But when it comes to the meaningful stuff, a reporter asked him, do you take any blame for inflation? And what does he say? No, because it was already here. Because it was already there when I got here, man. Remember what the economy was like when I got here? Jobs were hemorrhaging. Inflation was... Is this dude serious? We were in the beginning of a pandemic. All right? But what was the real numbers? When he took office, inflation was 1.4 to 1.7, which is below the target rate of 2%. So inflation was perfect when he took office. The month that it started to peak was when he signed his COVID economic stimulus. Almost $2 trillion. It has peaked at 9.1%. And it's not a worldwide phenomenon. Since the first half of 2021, U.S. inflation has increasingly outpaced inflation in other developed countries. Boom. It's his fault. Take responsibility. Do something about it. But he just goes, nah, man, you know how bad it was when I got here. No, it was pretty good when you got here. Speaking of elite liars, this guy. Man, I want to... He's just destroying California. And he's got his sights set on the United States. Newsom, Biden, China. This is what you see. Puxatawny Phil emerges from Burrow to let everyone know there are some documents marked classified down there. And that's what I love about the B. They don't have to make it. They don't have to make it about Trump or Biden. They can just make a joke about the overall stupidity of all these fucking classified documents ending up everywhere. I'm going to go through my garage today and see if I got any. Progressive really wants communism, but is worried there won't be gluten-free bread lines. Yeah. I'd have to imagine that in places like Russia, gluten-free is kind of hard to come by. You don't want the gluten? Everyone ordered to pay everyone reparations, as every race owes every race at some point. Amen, brothers. That is so true. That is so true. This is my second favorite one of the week. You can't even make this shit up. The guy who was investigating Trump for Russian collusion has now been arrested for Russian collusion. Look, I don't agree with the Republicans on everything, okay? But what I'm seeing out of the Democrats is just scary. It's scary stupid. Scary stupid Spice. If they ever have the Spice Girls reunite, add that. Scary stupid Spice. Jesus, man. Come on. We need to see what's going on here. We need to see that both sides are just extremely corrupt, but one side is just incredibly much more stupid and much more dangerous at this point. Because I don't think the Republicans overall are in bed with China, but fuck, the Democrats are playing China's game. They're eroding us from within. They're making us weak. Those are the truths. Sad, YouTuber Mr. Beast spends millions curing blind people when he could have sent another tank to Ukraine. Oh. There's been a lot of it's kind of stupid, man. Mr. Beast spent millions curing blind people, literally. He restored the sight of something like 1,000 people. And the online criticism of him is he only did it for publicity. If he really wanted to do that, he shouldn't have filmed it and put it up on YouTube where he made the money to do such a thing. This is insanity. But what is really illustrated is that instead of throwing money at releasing prisoners from jail or some of this cockamamie stupid shit that we're doing, these liberal DAs, these dumbass green policies, instead of spending millions upon millions of dollars on bad ideas, he literally just went out and cured 1,000 blind people. He's just one dude. And that's what we need our politicians doing. We need our politicians to stop with the bullshit rhetorics and get down to business and do stuff. Remove the regulations that will allow us to build housing for the homeless here in California. Allow us to arrest the criminals and keep them in jail where they might be fixed. Allow us to get the mentally ill help. Please. We have kids every single day joining the ranks of the homeless because nobody is doing anything about the shit at their house, the shit at their school, the shit in their lives. Nobody's trying to help them. And when somebody like Mr. Beast goes out and tries to help people, he's accused of doing it for publicity. But those very same people don't accuse our politicians of just doing shit for votes. And that's what we need to change. Mr. Beast, you're a great guy. Never watched any of your videos, but amen, brother. All right, so we were just talking about Mr. Beast and how one man can actually make a difference and how simplicity and common sense and things like that can actually make change. Sometimes it takes that one person to stand up. And that's the problem that I see right now. On both sides of the fence, I don't see anybody who is willing to stand up for what's right. What is correct? What is logical? What operates in the world of common sense? A couple good examples here. Thomas Jefferson, when he was president, he wanted to keep the United States small and manageable. He foresaw the growth as just increasing the issues and the problems and things that he didn't really want to deal with. But when the Louisiana Purchase appeared, he knew that ultimately that amount of land, that amount of the space to move and to colonize and all of that was good for the United States. So he did it. When Bush OG knew that for the good of Americans, he had to side with the Democrats and he had to raise taxes. He famously said, read my lips, no new taxes. But he had to raise taxes. And he did. And he knew he was committing political suicide. Do we have leaders like that anymore? We have a guy like Joe Biden who doesn't take responsibility for anything that he's done wrong. He blames others for everything. We have mouthpieces like Omar and AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren and Getz, who are making money, but they're not making much sense. We need to make a fundamental change in how we pick and support these people who hold our lives in their hands. Better do it soon, folks. I'm Kid Copious. I'm Purple State, and so are you. Peace, y'all. Dollar bill, dance me out. Dance me out. Ow.